Civil Media.
The attendees, allow me in the beginning to thank Civil for organizing this conference on election reforms. This gives us one more opportunity to open discussion on this issue of utmost importance for our society, and they keep making their contribution on developing democracy in our country. As a political party, DOM is championing the change of election model for many years already with three key points. The first is one election district as opposed to the six that currently exist, then open lists for both parliamentary and local elections, and 50% of women in the list, equal number of women and men in the list for MPs and council members. I will try to elaborate briefly on all 3 points and why are we actually championing them. Regarding one polling district proportional model with one polling district versus the current six, we are convinced that this will improve democracy in the society and citizens will be more appropriately represented in the parliament. What is taking place now with the division in six election districts leads to a situation when a political party with its ideology and program, their candidate for an MP might win 5,000 or 6,000 votes, but this is insufficient for them to become member of the parliament, which means that the citizens who voted for this candidate are not represented in the parliament. And if we take into consideration what happens, and if this happens in five districts, 6,000 votes per district are simply not counted. That means that a political party, a candidate, could find a support from 30,000, 40,000 voters, but in the end they are not represented in the parliament. Those citizens are not represented basically. So we believe that if there is one election district, it would lead to more equitable representation of citizens. This will contribute to a parliament with greater variety, which is in the best interest for the democracy, because we will have many different profiles with different political ideologies that will be championing their political ideologies and values. What is also important is that by changing to one election district, there won't be any need of pre-election coalitions. Quite the contrary, every political party will act independently, present to its voters, featuring its own election program, which would then mean greater responsibility for the elected for those elected to implement the program they promised to the citizens in the election period. This will give rise to bigger responsibility in implementing the programs of political parties that the citizens voted for, that the citizens supported. All of this would mean better development of democracy in our society. This is why we are firm behind the belief that this is in the best interest, not just of the smaller political parties, as it is often called. One election district is the best interest of the citizens of our country. Regarding open lists, we believe that the list should be open for both parliamentary elections and the local elections, because that is an even more advanced development of democracy in the society. This would mean that the citizens are electing not just the party they are voting for, they will directly elect the candidate, the individual they believe would be the best representative for their beliefs and their needs. And this is how the responsibility of citizens is even greater, as a personal responsibility for every individually elected MP. And also what is very important in this domain, the open list. This will mean direct democratization of the political parties. We are often hearing debates about the political parties needing to be democratized. This then transfers to the institutions in the society. And this model with open lists will directly influence the democratization of the political parties. that might mean that someone who is not at the top of the list, he might even be last in the list of their party, but if they receive bigger support of the citizens, they will be elected to the parliament. And the third pledge of DOM is equal participation of women and men in the lists, 50-50. We believe that this is really very important and that it is high time for the quota to be reached with 50% of women in parliamentary lists and council lists. And so equal rights for men and women, equal opportunities is one of the key program priorities, and we are firmly supporting the notion that if this is not part of all societal processes, if 50% of the population in the country is not involved in everything, you could not create significant development in the society in all areas of social life. Of course, what is key here is political participation of women, and with the 50% quota in the lists, this will be ensured. And we believe that there is already a positive reception for this, that this is well received and supported by the citizens and by most of the political parties. And in the end, I would like to stress that as an MP, as a president of DOM, with my colleague Popovska, we are part of the initiative for one election district. The public is already informed that such initiative was established in the parliament. 11 MPs from 10 different political parties and one independent. We created this initiative for one election district. Why did we focus on the change of election model only with one election district? Because for this we have consensus between us, between the 12 MPs who are part of the initiative. I, as an MP, am part of this, but of course I remain with the efforts, with the pledges of DOM. And as the discussions unfold, as we heard in the political parties, we would really like to be involved in the discussions. That is one of the pledges of the initiative. It would not be democratic if only 3 or 4 largest parties participate in it and decide on the election reforms in the country. This is why we are asking to be involved in the discussions. And the guidelines regarding the changes proposed, changes that will be discussed during the campaign and participation of the parties in the campaign. This is important, and I agree that smaller political parties have much smaller media space to represent our program. And we should have equal access to the media. And I'm also saying that I'm glad to hear what the Minister Manchevsky said, that there is one more tool to ensure clean election lists. We are all witnesses that few years ago there were many phantom voters in the voters lists. We were also engaged in the field. We found apartments that did not exist, people who did not exist but were still part of the voters list. And it is very important, in order to ensure fair and democratic elections, and in order to restore the trust of the citizens in the institutions, all these issues should be resolved and consensus should be reached between the political players, so that we have fair democratic processes and that this works for the development of democracy in the country.
Civil media